Of Royal Professor Abdulaziz Unku Abdul Hamid earlier today, an eminent economist and the longest-serving Vice-Chancellor of University Malaya. His contributions have gone beyond academia.
Yeah, Melissa, perhaps a generation that might have had direct, contact with the man in terms of his ideas. Maybe in the later part of his life, he was much less of a public intellectual as others of his generation might have been. But I believe a year or so ago, a 4-volume collection of his works was published. Hasn't been launched yet, but I think that, in many ways, perhaps is meant to represent the body of work that he's associated with. And in the months and weeks to come, perhaps we'll see tributes, not just about, his importance to Malaysian intellectual life, but also his direct contributions to the field of knowledge.
Yes, definitely. We hope to see his legacy continued. Al-Fatiha, and our thoughts and prayers are with his family at this time. Let's come back now to the events that happened in Dewan Raya today. The third and final reading of Budget 2021 was passed with a slim majority and backing predictions that it would in fact fail. So what's next for stakeholders after what we've seen as months of volatility? Bridget Welsh joins us now. She's with the Asia Research Institute at the University of Nottingham, Malaysia. Good evening, Bridget. So 111 lawmakers voted in favour, while 108 voted against Budget 2021. Now, one MP was absent. A slim majority, Bridget, but has this laid to rest concerns over the legitimacy of the Perikatan National Government?
Well, I think that these issues are going to likely to continue in terms of contestation over politics, in terms of the numbers. But for the time being, I think that this is a clear victory for Hamidin Yassin's government, and he's in a position to have a sense of relief in terms of this particular contestation.
Bridget, over the last couple of weeks, we had Anwar Ibrahim, who's the official leader of the federal opposition, kind of playing a kind of brinksmanship kind of game with regard to the government, suggesting that he might be able to orchestrate its downfall. And also, just last night, Tunku Razali, together with Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, came out to, in anticipation of this government's fall today, and talking about the future composition of a government, at least in terms of the character of the people Dr. Mahathir felt was necessary to lead that new government. All that hasn't panned out. Is this a slap in the face for both Anwar Ibrahim and Dr. Mahathir?
Well, I think that in terms of the move last night, yesterday by Mahathir and Tunku Razali, my sense is that, particularly by Mahathir, this actually really made a difference in the outcome today by assuring that there would be continued debate and discussion over the leadership in the opposition. And so what it did is, for those who might have moved from UMNO to support the opposition against voting for Hamidin Yassin, they basically would see this as an issue of insecurity, of uncertainty. So they stayed with the situation that was secure. And so in this way, I think Mahathir made it more difficult for the opposition to actually get the numbers or to have people move across by making the announcement that happened yesterday. But at the same right now, the question will be, and is on the public and also within Pakatan Harapan himself, whether or not Anwar Ibrahim should continue to lead the opposition. This is multiple failures, and this is, I think, one of the key things that's come out of today's vote. This is more about Anwar Ibrahim, ironically, than Hamidin Yassin, because it questions his leadership and his style of brinkmanship that you spoke about just now.
Okay, so Bridget, can you tell us, what are you hearing from, say, Pakatan Harapan coalition members? This perhaps, is there still confidence in Anwar Ibrahim as a leader of the opposition?
Well, I think one of the challenges is that there are differences among Pakatan Harapan members. Those differences are largely generational. with younger members wanting to move on, with older members still more having kind of a sense of appreciation of Anwar Ibrahim's sacrifice, a sense of friendship. So there is a tension from wanting to move the coalition and the opposition in a different direction. And I think these divisions extend within political parties. They're not just one party versus another. And I think these tensions are very real. And the question is not just about leadership of the opposition. It's a question about political strategy. Should the opposition continue to have these number games and try to take over politics and take over government, or should it engage in focused on the elections? And I think these are the issues that I think Pakatan Harapan will have to grapple with after the vote today.
Bridget, we've had some very interesting conversations, unusual in the Malaysian context over the last couple of decades. Conversations that included, opposition playing or offering to support the government of the day through a confidence and supply agreement, talk of compromise and some sort of negotiation over the budget. We saw some of that during the week, but was there sufficient shift, do you think, in the way in which those who control Putrajaya view power? Do you think it's still an all or nothing game, or is there room for kind of progress and evolution of our political culture?
So we have two different sets of trajectories going on. One, we have what I call the no-choice politics. People are sort of, the different alliances are stuck in their relationships. They're unhappy relationships. We saw the unhappiness played out in Perak between UMNO and PAS and Bersatu. We're seeing the unhappiness playing out over the contestation over the leadership in Pakatan Harapan, which has been happening well before this particular vote, but has been extended by what happened today. So we have a sense of this, wanting to have an exit strategy, wanting to find a way out, but sort of stuck with the choices that they have. So in the sense, we've also now seen new things come to the horizon. And these issues are very challenging because they fundamentally involve changing the way different parties engage with politics and how they work in the political process, aka with each other, who they see as enemies. This relationship between UMNO, for example, and DAP, traditional enemies and political opponents. Should there be a relationship? Should there not? And so I think what we're seeing now are the consideration of the possible. But there really are serious constraints from the perspective of the traditional divisions in the political landscape, the polarizations over race, religion, over conceptualizations of reform. These become real challenges for these different parties to find new relationships. The focus of the debate has largely been on personality, and I think that and positioning. And I think now what is happening and will be forced to happen is to have consideration of new alignments, with the general public at large, and also a sense of kind of figuring out greater strategic directions, because the strategies that have worked so far aren't working. Well, and I think this is not just for Pakatan Harapan parties, but I think this is also true for parties like UMNO.
That's really good, and I wanted to talk to you. You brought up unhappy relationships. Now, wondered, Bridget, there was a lot of talk about a revolt by a faction within UMNO to defeat the budget. I mean, what happened there? I mean, were the rumors of the unhappy relationships, of the deep divisions in UMNO exaggerated?
No, I think they're still real, and I think that they are still there. But the question becomes, first of all, number one, what move to a situation of where in the opposition they haven't got their act together about how to work together and how to actually, who's going to lead. I think that they don't want to go from one mess into another mess. And so they're staying put till they know the strategy of moving out. It doesn't mean that they're happy, but there is a recognition that there are these divisions and there's differences, but they don't want to move into something that they're uncomfortable with. I think this is one aspect of what's happening.
Bridget, Mohammad Hassan from UMNO, in a curious news report, suggested that what the country needs are new policies and new ways of thinking about governance and and policies and such, and not so much new coalitions. I mean, he seemed to buck this idea that somehow a new coalition will automatically lead to new kinds of politics or new strategies in terms of governance. What do you make of him in particular? Because he's a kind of a, I don't know if he's an outlier. How do you place him within the kind of, the landscape of UMNO as maybe an influencer or somebody who can push the needle in a different direction?
Well, he's an important figure within UMNO. Is a focus on policy issues. One of the things that we've seen in the last discussions over the last few months, over the budget in particular, there's been inadequate attention to actual solutions to problems. And in fact, there's a focus on specifically on areas of the budget that are shortfalls or things that are not being addressed, but not necessarily offering alternatives. And I think this is an area for a future conversation, finding common ground to sort of solve some of the problems that the country is facing. And I think this is an important idea that's being put out there because it allows common grounds for different relationships and different parties to work together to solve issues. At this juncture, everything has largely predominantly been focused on power struggles and personality, which obviously we've seen that this has gotten no one except Hamidin and his party, some of his key allies, into key positions.
Bridget, you said it's time for a new strategy, new alliances, new strategies, because the old ones will not keep working. Well, the Berita government's coming up to, likely to be a year soon. I'm wondering, what has kept it together all this time? Will that still be the glue that keeps the Berita national government together going forward?
Look, it's a marriage of convenience. It's a situation where the parties and individuals are benefiting from that relationship, but they're not comfortable in that relationship. And I think when there becomes a point where there are these crises that push the discomfort, like we saw from Perak, then I think we can see the strains that are existing in that relationship. But it is still one that is going to have significant challenges ahead, particularly as the parties move towards elections, because then it will become a challenge to figure out how to distribute political seats and political representation among them. And there's still these tensions still exist, and they're not likely to go anywhere soon.
Bridget, thank you so much for speaking with us tonight. We really appreciate your time, you sharing your insights over what happened in Dewan Raya today. Thank you. We're going to take a quick break here on Consider This, but stay with us. We'll be back with more. Consider this. Let's continue our conversation about what's next now that Budget 2021 has been passed in Dewan Rakyat with a slim majority. Hamid joins us now. He's a political analyst at University Malaya. Hamidin, we spoke to Bridget Welsh a little bit earlier before you came on the line. Now, she said it's a clear victory for the Perikatan National Government and Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin. But I'm wondering, what lessons do you think they should draw from this considering the volatility and the uncertainty that this process has been shrouded in?
Thank you, Melisa. I think, yes, it is a victory, but I don't think it's a victory that deserve a big celebration for Perikatan Nasional. I think a good learning lesson to them that they must have a better understanding, in my point of view, was the current political turmoil, especially within the UMNO and within the Perikatan National Government. And I think for Muhyiddin Yassin and his team, obviously I think they have to really go back and redraw their strategy. How can they become more secure in the future? Because I don't think this is the end of the volatility that will be brought towards Perikatan Nasional. Not from Pakatan Harapan. I don't think Pakatan Harapan can do more damage to Muhyiddin Yassin, but certainly from members of his own government.
Hamidin, do you see this? I mean, do you think we should read the events of today more as a failure of the opposition and by extension that of Anwar Ibrahim, or this as a success of the Perikatan Nasional Government and Muhyiddin Yassin?
I think it is, if you ask me, I think I will put more weight to the latter very much. I'm looking at the failure of the leadership in Pakatan Harapan. The bill before. So I think it is a failure of the opposition, and I think especially the failure of leadership for Anwar Ibrahim in that sense. I don't think it is very much a good strategy for Perikatan Nasional. In fact, in my point of view, Perikatan Nasional, especially Muhyiddin and Bersatu, was severely under siege by UMNO, especially if you look at what happened in Perak just a week ago. So within that, you know that they are very weak, but within that weaker situation for Bersatu, I think Pakatan Harapan failed to really much capitalize on the situation.
But Hamidin, what could Anwar have done? I mean, with the speculation rife that he was trying to court members of UMNO, beyond UMNO, perhaps GPS is the other large block that could have made a difference if it shifted. I mean, what really were the cards that Anwar was dealt? And did he, I mean, considering the fact that they got a full showing today with the, 108 votes against the budget, was that the best you think he could have done? Realistically?
I think, Sharaad, I think for me Sharaad, I think what's important when we look at this, I don't think the number 108 is very much something that is the end result for Anwar Ibrahim. Of Anwar to really put Pakatan Harapan in order. I think that is the first mistake of Anwar Ibrahim. When, in my point of view, he failed to bring in the faction from Pejuang and Mahathir and the team, from faction of Shafi Abdal. So with that, I think give a lot of opportunity and bullet for Perikatan Nasional, especially for Muhyiddin UMNO, to look at Pakatan Harapan is very much in disarray. That will give them a lot of advantage. So what they're doing basically is just keep Pakatan Harapan fragmented. I think they're successfully doing that. So I think, yes, 108 is very much of the number, but that number, in my point of view, is not because of Anwar Ibrahim. That number is just sharing a common goal to defeat the budget. There's a big difference in terms of that.
Are you hearing anything perhaps from the Pakatan Harapan coalition parties about their confidence or lack of confidence in Anwar Ibrahim's leadership?
I think, obviously, from what we gather, it is a big challenge for Anwar. I think the coming weeks, I think, and the coming months will be very tough for him, especially, I think in a couple of days, there is even some rebellion from his own party questioning his leadership. And I think so too with other members of the Pakatan Harapan. If you notice, when at the policy level, when the bill was not voted out by the Pakatan Harapan, I think most of the leaders from Pakatan Harapan to defend the move, which I think made them very much not happy with the situation.
Right.
So I think Anwar Ibrahim definitely is under siege now, and I hope he really make a decision not about himself, but mostly as about Malaysian politics for the future.
Hamid, I want to ask you about Dr. Mahathir and Tunku Razali's press conference. Have they lost credibility for those?
I think UMNO will do that. I don't think UMNO want to lose any members in the parliament at a particular time, especially as a statue of Tengku Razali. But I think if we look at the yesterday PC, I think you are right. I don't think it's a premature, but I think what the two, I think, old guard of Malaysian politics are playing is very much try to stir between the two, both parties actually. I think basically the game for them, in my point of view, is still on, where I don't think by the success of tabling the budget, PN government is secure. The vote of confidence is still there. And I think what Kuli and Mahathir give from yesterday PC is very much an alternative for the Malaysian members of parliament to look at. So basically they put their card now on the table, telling the members of parliament that, yeah, we are here. If you agree with what we do, we can do the talking. So I think that now basically make more Malaysian politics more dynamic in that sense.
Hamidin, last night on this show we had Shafi Abdal of Warisan talking about renewal, talking about new leadership. Where do you see it actually in a practical sense coming from? Do you see all these men, and they are men, Dr. Mahathir, Tunku Razali, Anwar Ibrahim, relinquishing power and grooming a new generation or encouraging a new generation to step forward? Do you think that's even possible? Is that part of our own psyche when it comes to a political elite?
Gerard, I think most of us wish the same when we really wish that Malaysians will see and wake up tomorrow and see new faces contesting in our political arena. But in real politics, I don't think that's going to happen. Even though many people predict that Anwar Ibrahim will kind of severely, I myself saying that, but I don't think Anwar Ibrahim will resign. I think he will be continuously argue that he is the best for the country, and then he will get the support, especially among the PKR. So too with Mahathir and others. I think the biggest challenge for Malaysia is not so much from this lineup, but I think it's very much from the second or third tiers, where they, in my point of view, have really stepped up and challenged the status quo in Malaysian politics. I don't think people outside the party can very much influence, unless there is some rebellion within the party itself that make a difference, especially among the PKR, even among the Amanah and DAP and Pejuang. So, in my point of view, to what extent the political leadership in this country, especially the old guard, want to really relinquish the power, I don't think so. So far, I think they will stay, at least for another 6 months to a year, for us to leading
the current government. And I want to bring up, you said a little bit earlier that this is not likely to be the end of the volatility. There are likely to be subsequent tests for Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin. I'm wondering, in this marriage of convenience that has kept the Perikatan Nasional government in power for almost a year now, will UMNO continue to be a trusted ally? They stuck to their guns, they stuck to the party, the coalition, the pact today, but will they be a trusted ally going forward?
Oh, very good question, Melisa. I think if I am Muhyiddin Yassin now, definitely I will become more careful with UMNO as we speak, because I think with the success of what happened in Perak, and in my point of view, on the ground, basically UMNO will claim they are the one that make the budget pass. And that will severely pressure and I think UMNO very much basically secure the position that they are not going to join Perikatan Nasional. So, in my point of view, Muhyiddin Yassin pay a big price to get the budget passed Perak. I think that's the price paid by Muhyiddin Yassin, and he will pay a lot more and higher price as long as he's deal with UMNO.
Interesting that you mentioned claiming success. I believe the former Prime Minister Najib Razak, in a long missive, claimed that they were responsible for the success of EPF and such. again, are people like individuals like Najib Razak, likely to come back? Do you think there is a desire on their part to lead Putrajaya again?
Okay. Well, Sharaad, in my point of view, what I'm looking at in UMNO now is not only the desire of Najib Razak and Zahid Hamidi to stay on, but I think, interestingly, there is a narrative within UMNO, particularly, that pushing these leaders to be back and have the power, and that they are proven as a good leader for them. So I think it is there, not only from them, but also I think they're slowly gaining a good momentum within the UMNO rank to be back and have a power in Malaysian politics.
Right. Hamidin, always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for your time and joining us on the show tonight. That's all we have for you on this episode of Consider This. I'm Melisa Idris.
And I'm Sharaad Kuttan, signing off for the evening.
Thank you so much for watching, and good night.